Drew Brees, Saints OC role should be a highly coveted job for NFL coaches. We are listening to WWL's interview with Drew Brees. Drew Brees was in the media all day today on a Thursday. He's opening his new Slider restaurant. Slider, I just met her in Metairie. So we're going to listen to what Drew has to say. I have no idea what questions the brain trust over at WWL is going to ask him. I'm assuming it's going to be about the OC role, which I'll be very interested to hear his take.
Drew, what is your take? Because Saints fans want to know what's taking so long. Look, double-digit interviews with different offensive coordinators. Do you think it comes into play because 2 or 3 guys they've been interested in, they sign with other teams, that not knowing, I'm not saying Dennis Allen's a lame duck, but he's definitely on the hot seat. What you're going to do next year as far as when you're going to move your family and you're going to a different team. You want some kind of stability. You think that has come into play as far as who the Saints are going to hire maybe as the next offensive coordinator? And
you got to remember, something that people forget about with coaching roles or free agency or whatever is that think about it like a job, right? When you're getting into a new job and you're interviewing for a job, one of the most important things is your boss. Who will you be working for? Who will be kind of over you? You know, who you're going to have to deal with on a daily basis. Now imagine that the boss has been a public figure for years. You can see what they've done over the course of a year. You can hear all these interviews from them. That's how sports works. So for any OC, Dennis Allen is a huge factor, whether they like him as a person, whether they like his football philosophy, whether they think he's a lame duck coach. All of those things do come into play from just the human side of it. You know, just the human side of getting a new job, picking up, moving your family, starting anew, putting your career on the line in a franchise. And that goes up to ownership too. You know, how do they feel about Mickey Loomis? Obviously, the OC probably sees some kind of trajectory of maybe one day him being the head coach. So then he's got to be thinking, okay, does what I believe line up with not just the head coach, but the front office, the general manager, and then you factor in the roster. So there's so many things that are part of this process that I think as fans, we don't really think about. As fans, we think about, okay, an OC, he's got to be worried about Derek Carr, the offense, and that's it. Scoring touchdowns, scoring points, calling plays. But there's way more to it.
And maybe who do you like to lead the Saints offense with Derek Carr?
Yeah, I mean, I think all these are factors when coordinators are coming and doing these interviews. Certainly the stability of the head coaching position, certainly the guy who's playing quarterback, certainly the skill position players and just the talent that you have on offense. Look, I would see the New Orleans Saints offensive coordinator as being a highly coveted job. I think that we've got a lot of talented players. I think we've got a great offensive line. I think we have a quarterback who's very capable.
Okay, Drew, you had me until the great offensive line part. In what universe? I'm not saying we have an awful offensive line, but to say we have a great offensive line, I got a question if Drew's watching the games. I got a question what's in those sliders. If we're leading off with, I mean, come on, we got a great offensive line. Why wouldn't an OC want to come here?
And look, I know that there was inconsistencies this year. There were times where, we probably felt like we had opportunities that we didn't take advantage of. But I was really encouraged at the way we played, towards the latter part of the season.
To close out the season, yep.
Yeah, when we knew we had to win in order to make it into the playoffs, I felt like we played very well.
Well, besides the Rams game, besides that, when we knew we had to win, to keep our destiny in our own hands, and we got absolutely shellacked on prime time Thursday Night Football in front of God and everybody. Besides that little whoopsie poopsie, we played great down the stretch.
Like Derek played very well. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. But I would see this as a highly coveted job for the guys that are left. And obviously, you want to be a fit for your quarterback. I would imagine that he would be active in those conversations.
Well, I asked Mickey Loomis that, and he said that he's not active. If Drew Brees is here, I guarantee he'd be part of that.
Jesus, Bobby. Relax, pal. Blew my eardrums out. My God. Yeah, I mean, I said that whenever Loomis mentioned it, way back when we listened to the interview where Loomis said Carr wouldn't be the one making the decision. Carr wouldn't be part of the evaluation process, and we pushed back on it. And I said, how could he not be? This is your franchise quarterback. This is a $150 million guy. This is the starting quarterback, the face of the franchise, whether you like it or not. The OC has to be comfortable with Carr, at least for a year or 2 years. The OC has to believe that they can get the most out of Derek Carr. So to me, they need to be sitting there talking to Carr. Carr needs to be in the interview process. Carr needs to be there. He needs to be vocal, asking questions. They need to be breaking down film together. All of that needs to be part of this process. So when Loomis said it, I was surprised. Hard to believe. And I don't know behind closed doors. I don't know what Loomis is saying because he has to or whatever. So I don't know. But I'd be stunned if the OC doesn't have a ton of time with Derek Carr leading up to the decision.
But Mickey Loomis told me, no, Bobby, no, that we making that decision without Derek Carr. I'm saying BS. I said that's not maybe a true statement. But Drew, when you commenting, come on, our offensive line compared to what we had in the past, come on, they ain't no damn Teron Armstead, Jari Evans, Carl Nixon, all that, Max Unger. I ain't go.
Good on Bobby pushing back on the offensive line thing. Come on. We watched the games this season.
On and on. No. And then Ryan Ramchek's dealing with knee injury. No, Drew, offensive line is not like it used to be. I know you're trying to say the right thing, but I'm telling you, no, there ain't no way. Right now, we're not dominant in the trenches. We can't stop the run, and we can't run the...
It's kind of funny that Bobby's got Drew Brees on the phone. Brees is just doing this because he's doing the radio row. He's trying to sell a couple of hamburgers. He's trying to sell a couple of chicken sandwiches that they've been offering. He's trying to sell a couple of fries, and Bobby is letting it rip about the Saints not being good in the trenches. And this is the most fired up I've heard Bobby talking about the Saints all year long. I wish Bobby would have the same kind of vitriol, word of the day, when he talks to Mickey Loomis. Because when Mickey Loomis is on here and we're listening to those Mickey Loomis interviews, we don't really hear this level of emotion and passion from Bobby. So interesting. Maybe if Mickey started selling sliders, we'd get that.
The football. You might say, well, it's much more than that. But no, it all starts that. You do play action and what you're doing. But right now, no, I'm kind of discouraged. And I think we're hovering around 500. Because what we did, we gave up 4.5 yards a run, and we only ran for 3.5.
Well, I'd say that probably can get better. But I'd say this. Yeah, I think we've done a great job drafting offensive linemen and defensive linemen.
Drew, brother, my man, I wasn't born yesterday. Who? I mean, I can't even imagine what the comment section is going to look like. So let's just think about some of the offensive and defensive linemen we have drafted. Does anybody come to mind? What about Peyton Turner? What about Marcus Davenport? What about Trevor Penning? Well, how are we feeling to hear this from Drew? I would rather Drew just say, I haven't been watching the games. I don't know. If you say so, Bobby, whatever. But I don't know. Because we haven't done a good job drafting offensive and defensive linemen.
Over the last 5-6 years, I can think of plenty of guys that have been mainstays on both sides of the line.
Ryan Ramchek, but then now he's dealing with a knee injury. I don't know. I kind of, have high expectations. I compare McCoy to Max Unger. Okay. And then you look at Cesar Ruiz compared to the guards we've had. Now, the one thing I was pleasantly surprised with, Drew, is Andrus Peat. Andrus Peat, I don't know if he even likes football.
I'm stunned that we are halfway through this video. Drew Brees, greatest quarterback in the franchise history, top 5 quarterback to ever live, top 3 in a lot of people's books. Why aren't we talking about the quarterback play? Why aren't we talking about play calling, the OC, what the OC has to do, as far as scheme, what kind of scheme does Drew want to see the Saints using, anything like that? Why are we talking about the offensive line? Why are we talking about Andrus Peat? Why are we talking about Eric McCoy? What's going on here?
I think he's so big he has to play football. And then we move him to tackle and he kicks ass. I mean, he goes from guard to tackle. He was unbelievable. So that's very encouraging. But I just don't see the stability that I think we had when we were always the top 5 offense, if not top 3, if not number 1. When you knew, and Sean Payton you knew that we were winning in the trenches. And
it pains me to hear. Like, really think about it. Let's step 5 feet back. You know what? Let's step 20 feet back. Think about that. The question is, why were the Saints so stable on offense? Why were they always number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 on offense? Why were they so stable during all those years? Option A, they had Sean Payton and Drew Brees, the greatest quarterback in the franchise history, the greatest head coach in the franchise history, a top 5 quarterback to ever live, and a top 5 offensive mind of his generation. Option B, they were good in the trenches. The reason the Saints were so stable and so good for so long is because they had a great coach, specifically a great offensive coach, and a Hall of Fame MVP level, absolute first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. The current issue is that we don't have stability at the head coaching position. We don't have stability, since our head coach is a defensive coach, I'll give him some grace. We don't have stability in who's calling the plays or who's running the offense. Derek Carr, well, we'll see what happens. This year, he was average. Okay, certainly not Hall of Fame level, certainly not Drew Brees level. So the same problem remains, ladies and gentlemen. We have not replaced or filled the hole left by Drew Brees and Sean Payton. It's okay to not fill one. It's very difficult to fill a hole left by a Hall of Fame superstar quarterback immediately. It's hard to fill the Sean Payton hole. Sure, it's not like go get somebody. They're definitely going to fill those shoes. Difficult, but we're not even attempting, because Dennis Allen isn't even an attempt to fill Sean Payton's void. Dennis Allen is a defensive coach who was here. So nothing has changed. Really think about that. Think about your offense and think about your defense. Think about how big of a difference it is to go from Sean Payton to Pete Carmichael. We didn't even attempt to address the offense. We just said, here, Pete, maybe you can do it. We should have brought in an offensive specialist, a true guru, to come in and be the OC. That's what we should have done, because elevating Dennis Allen, fine, sure. If you want to keep the defense stable, it is what it is. But we haven't tried to fill that, and then we didn't try and fill Brees. What did we do immediately after Brees? Trevor Siemian, Ian Book, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, just a who's who of whatever quarterbacks. So the same, we had the exact same strategy for the 2 biggest voids on the team. Don't do nothing. Try and find an answer from within. But beyond that, we'll just see what happens. And what do you know? A couple years later, we have absolutely zero offensive stability. Absolutely zero. I wonder why. It's not I'll tell you this, it ain't the trenches. I'll tell you this, it ain't Andrews Pete. I'll tell you this, it ain't Eric McCoy. Those aren't the reasons. The reasons are we have had these 2 giant voids for seasons now, years now, and we haven't even thought about fixing it. We haven't even thought about trying to, get to that next step, fill the void. Derek Carr is an effort at that, I will say. Bringing in Carr is an effort at trying to, let's actually bring in some stability at quarterback. I'll say that. But it's not going to do any good if we don't have a coach, we don't have a scheme, we don't have a philosophy, we don't have any of that stuff. And until we have that, we're never going to be a stable top 5 offense like Bobby's talking about. And
how we had the advantage over the defense. I just don't see that today.
I think we'll be all right, Bobby. Hey, look, I know this. I trust our management to go out and get the guys that we need to get, right? And so they'll do that in free agency, and they'll do that in the draft, and they'll continue to build the team around the O-line and D-line. I know this. That's always been a priority for us. We've never just thought we can get away with having great skill players and not the right guys up front. So our guys will always find a way to have
But we don't even have that. We're like, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we have allowed the roster to deplete to where we're not really great at any position. We've got good top end at some positions, like wide receiver. Chris Olave is good. Yeah, but would I say that we have like a great skill position room? No, I would not. Rashid Shaheed, okay, fine. He's good. Is he a number 2 wide receiver? Is he even a number 3 wide receiver? I don't know. He's more of like a dynamic, catalyst who can come in and be a spark, but he's not a number 2 wide receiver. Our tight ends, if you combined all of them, they're not a top tight end. Kamara is good, no doubt. Williams, Miller, who the hell knows? So we're not even doing what Drew's saying. We don't believe, like, we've actually never done what Drew's saying. We've never believed, like, let's just get some skill position players, let's get some people out there, and let's see what happens. I mean, even the people Drew had, the Pierre Thomases, the Lance Moores, the Marcus Colstons, those were all just kind of island of misfit toy players who ended up being really good because they were in this system. And they were part of the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era. But we never said, let's just go get top level, elite level, super upper, high end playmakers and skill position players and let the rest fall apart. That's never what we did. Again, it's easy. What was the constant during the 12, 13 years of dominance from the Saints offense? What's the constant? It's not the running back. We rotated running backs all over the place. It's not the wide receivers. We rotated wide receivers all over the place. Marcus Colston here, Lance Moore here, Michael Thomas here. Like, they came and went. Tight end, same thing. Jimmy Graham was here. Oh, now he's gone. The constant is Drew Brees and Sean Payton. This is not a trick question. The Saints were dominant on offense, stable on offense, consistent on offense because we had those two. We've got to fill that. That's why I can't stand when we're talking about Trevor Penning and Eric McCoy and Andres Pete and Ryan Ramczyk and A.T. Perry and Paulson Adebo and who. None of that matters. On the top end, on the high end, when we're trying to create a stable franchise, specifically a stable offense, I don't care about Foster Moreau. I don't care about Taysom Hill. I don't care about Jawan Johnson. I don't care about Jimmy Graham. I don't care about A.T. Perry, Rashid Shaheed, Kendra Miller, all those guys. Are they fine players? Sure. Kendra Miller could have a fine career. Kendra Miller was good in bursts. What do you have, 150 yards rushing? Like, he was fine this year. Nothing against him. Passing grade. But until we fill those two voids, it's as simple as that. We will not be a successful franchise. We will not get back to where we were until we fix those two problems. And those two problems are replace Sean Payton, replace Drew Brees. It's as simple as that.
Have the right guys up front. I think a lot of them are in the building, and I'm sure we're going to go out and get some more.
Now, Drew, we have a number of texts. It's amazing. And I said, I don't know, slow your roll. I'm not saying that won't happen one day, but I like Drew Brees as the offensive coordinator for the Saints. I mean, the guy.
So I had a couple comments about this. It was like, what about Drew Brees as OC? And I said, pass. Like, I thought it was a joke. And then it was like, well, why not? The reason is because he has never done it. The reason is that he has never done it. He's never shown that he wants to do it. He's never even attempted to do it. Eli Manning is coaching his team for the Pro Bowl this weekend. He will have more experience coaching than Drew Brees. If Drew Brees wants to come be a quarterback coach, wants to come be an offensive assistant, if he wants to come do stuff like that, all for it. But to just hand him the play calling, to just hand him the offensive coordinator job and say, hey, you were a good quarterback, you should be able to do this. Guys, that's just not how it works. If that was the case, Tom Brady would have got a head coaching job or an offensive coordinator job the day he retired. He would be the greatest offensive coordinator of all time, right? Like, that, we've covered this before, but it doesn't translate like that. Sometimes it's even harder. It was harder for Michael Jordan to try and coach or to try and manage because he couldn't understand why players didn't have the same level of either ability or mental toughness that he did. That was his biggest problem with the Bobcats, was he could not relate to the players because the players did not have the tools that he had. So sometimes a player like Drew Brees or a Tom Brady or a Brett Favre or a Peyton Manning is difficult for them to pass down what they do or how they did it. It doesn't work. Brett Favre explaining how to be successful as a quarterback, a lot of what made Brett successful is the opposite of what you would teach. So, a young quarterback who doesn't have his skill set. So just because Brees was great doesn't mean he could be an OC. Could he be an OC if he wanted to? Sure. I don't know. If he wants to, and that's something that he's passionate about, and he climbs the ranks or takes it as an attempt, he could do it, sure. But just because he's Drew Brees, it makes no sense to just jump him to the top of the list with zero experience. So I think it's a joke, to mention Drew Brees or Tom Brady or Joe Montana as OC. It just, I don't see the line of thinking. I really don't. If Drew says in the next 10 seconds here, I could be interested in coaching. Okay, let's start him quarterback coach, right? Analyst, counsel, whatever. But OC, play caller, that's nuts.
I don't know how many times I'm going to read that. It's okay, I understand. You have to look at where Drew Brees is at in his life right now. That's not necessarily, down the road because he's involved with his kids. He's a good father. He's a good dad. And being involved with them. And then also another question. Drew, please explain what is a slider. So and I know you can comment on both of those. Slider.
Somebody wants to know about a small slider? What a slider is?
Okay, we're going to end the video there. We're not going to talk about what a slider is. A slider is like a curveball, but faster. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this? What do you think about Brees' comments? Obviously, it's very PC, and I ain't saying Pete Carmichael. I'm talking about politically correct. Obviously, Brees is trying to placate. Second word of the day? Second word of the day. He's trying to placate. He's trying to, say the nice things. We have the right people in the building. We've got good this. We've got good that. I trust this. I trust that. Here's what I believe. I don't think Drew Brees is reading the Saints Reddit. I don't think Drew Brees is on the Saints forum. I don't think Drew Brees is watching Saints games. I'm sure he's watching this channel, Face of the Franchise. It is what it is. But so I don't expect Brees to come in here and be, super passionate about, we got to fix this, we got to trade that, we got to do that, we got to do this. I would love to know what Drew thinks we need in an offensive coordinator. I would love to hear his thoughts on what kind of a scheme he thinks will work moving forward in the NFL. I would love to know what he thinks an offensive coordinator needs to bring to the table to get the most out of Derek Carr. Unfortunately, we didn't get those questions. We got more questions about beef patties than we did about that. So, unfortunately, we won't get those answers from Brees. But I would love to know his thoughts on that. I would like to know his thoughts on that more than the possibility of him being a play caller. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Pop off, sound off. I'll be down there. Thank you for watching. As always, I appreciate it very, very much. I will see you in the next video.